whether anyone was injured or killed. Let's go now to a live event underway, a press conference being held by Hamas. Let's listen to them.
Barbaric movement and campaign against our people, we confirm the following. First, the horrific crimes that are being committed by the Israeli occupation in northern Gaza is bigger than what any words could describe. What is happening is a complete genocide and is also killing all the people that are in northern Gaza. This is in clear violation of international humanitarian laws and all kind of international laws. The international community and all its institutions are now facing a real test. They need to exit. They need also to not remain silent and also to honor all the values and principles that they established. Second, it is no longer sufficient to just continue to condemn and that are not respected by or even taken into consideration by the Israeli occupation. The United Nations needs to take concrete movements in order to impose sanctions on this fascist occupation and also to apply more pressure on it and on its leaders in order to stop the ongoing genocide. Third, the army of the occupation forces have cut internet network from northern Gaza is aiming at trying to hide what is happening in Gaza and hiding their crimes and not allowing to reflect the real image of the ongoing and daily holocaust that is being committed. In this regard, we condemn some press and media and Arab-speaking media that are adopting a liberal speech that is marketing the plans of the occupation, and they are trying to adopt a black and wrong narrative that is not making this media any objective and also making it a partner with the occupation in this ongoing genocide. Four, the occupation continued to spread misinformation regarding the entrance of humanitarian aid to northern Gaza as they continue to publish wrong and falsified statements saying that some humanitarian aid are being allowed into Gaza and to northern Gaza, but the truth is only few aid have been allowed to get into central Gaza, which is also a region or an area that needs some humanitarian aid. We reiterate here that no aid have been allowed into northern Gaza since more than 15 days. Fifth, the Israeli occupation continued to lie about the existence of safe paths or safe areas. There are no safe areas as they continue to escalate and bomb. This fascist occupation continued to target or to arrest all those who are trying to leave the north using the paths that they say are safe. Sixth, the criminal occupation continue their criminal policy as they continue to target hospitals and not preventing paramedics and personnel from the medical teams to reach the casualties or to reach the injured. We call on all the international organizations and humanitarian organizations to do what is needed in order to save the health system and to provide it with all the needed equipment, including fuel, in order to be able to carry out their duties. Seventh, we hold the U.S. administration, including Britain and Germany, responsible for all those genocides and the escalation and the ongoing genocidal war that is being committed on a daily basis against our people in Gaza, as the occupation continued to be provided with all the needed military weapons, and they also have the needed political support. We also call on the International Court of Justice to take the needed measures in order to stop urge those countries to stop sending weapons to Israel. Eighth, we call on the Arab nations and all the Muslim states to cut all ties with the Israeli occupation in support and in solidarity of the resistance and the Gaza Strip, and to send a message to the world that Gaza is not alone. We also call on all our people and the Arab nations to take to the streets in solidarity with our people and our resistance, and in solidarity, especially with our people in Gaza. In conclusion, we reiterate that our unified stance and choice was and will always be to stay in our land and to face the occupation and to defeat all their schemes as they try to forcefully displace us and liquidate our cause. We will continue until we liberate our lands. May all our martyrs rest in peace, and we wish speedy recovery to all our injured and our patients, and that all our prisoners will be freed and victory will be on the side of our people. It is victory or martyrdom. That was from Hamas movement.
That was Sami Abu Zuhri, a senior Hamas official speaking there, talking about the situation, the ongoing situation in Gaza, specifically the siege of the north, which is now in its 15th day. He was saying there are false statements coming from Israel about aid, that only a few bits of aid are able to get into the center of the Gaza Strip, and nothing, he said, has got into the north in those 15 days. He said there are no safe areas in Gaza. There's no safe passage from the north, which is being bombarded on a daily, hourly basis. And he said he holds the US, the UK and Germany responsible for the genocide in Gaza. Let's bring in our correspondent, Mohammed Jamjoon. He's in Jordan's capital, Amman. That's because the Israeli government has banned Al Jazeera from reporting inside Israel and from the occupied West Bank. And Mohammed, we're going to get to the conflict between Israel and Lebanon in just a moment. First, we've just heard from Hamas talking about the humanitarian situation in Gaza. It is now 3 days since the leader of Hamas, Yahya Sinwar, was killed in the south of Gaza. What have we been hearing from Israel about what happens next there?
Well, Laura, Israel has maintained that it is going to continue the war until all its aims are reached. What we're hearing from Israeli officials, especially from Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, is that they are going to continue to stay in Gaza and they are going to continue to fight Hamas until they feel they have completely defeated Hamas. We even heard that from Benny Gantz. He's one of the opposition leaders in Israel. And he put out a statement after the killing of Sinwar that very much echoed a lot of the rhetoric we were hearing from Netanyahu, and added that Israel would in fact remain in Gaza for years to come. And one of the reasons that's important when it comes to Israel is because there had been a lot of questions in the wake of the news emanating that Sinwar had been killed as to whether or not Israel might try and take advantage of the leverage they have at this moment, or at least the perceived leverage they have at this moment, to try and once again get some type of a ceasefire negotiation back on track. That, we know, fell by the wayside and took a back seat these last couple of months. And so there were a lot of political analysts close to government figures that were essentially saying that the time is right now for Netanyahu to try and do what he can to ensure that the captives that remain in Gaza can actually be released, that there can be a swap, those captives that are held in Gaza for Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails. But that's not the kind of words that we've been hearing when Netanyahu has spoken the last couple of days. On the one hand, he's saying that they are going to continue this war until their aims are achieved. And on the other hand, you have also those statements from Hamas in the last 24 hours saying that no captives being held in Gaza are going to be released until and unless there is a ceasefire and the war comes to an end. So these two sides very much still at loggerheads, and it doesn't look like there's any type of diplomatic solution or any type of easing of the conflict coming anytime soon. That being said, in Israel at least, there are still relatives of captives that are going out onto the streets. We're expecting more on the streets of Tel Aviv in the coming hours, demanding that the government do more to try and ensure that their loved ones can be released from Gaza and return to Israel. But very much an open question. And really, again, what we're hearing from Israel throughout all of this is just defiance. Nothing that indicates that anybody in the leadership structure of Israel actually wants to try and ease the conflict or end the war anytime soon. Laura?
And just before we heard from the Hamas senior official there, we were talking about attacks on Beirut, again by Israel, following hundreds of rockets fired by Hezbollah into northern Israel. What's the official response that we've been seeing from Israel to this huge rocket and indeed drone attack that we saw in Israel today?
Well, Laura, what we're hearing from unnamed defense officials that are being quoted throughout the Israeli media landscape is a lot of concern that this could have happened. On the one hand, a lot of concern because the fact that there was a drone strike targeting Benjamin Netanyahu's residence, one of his residences, but the residence that he has in Caesarea, a city in the north, an area that is obviously on guard. Defense officials know that that would be a target potentially for some kind of an attack. So the fact that this drone could get through. And there are even videos showing this drone flying very close to an Israeli military helicopter and then overtaking it as well. And the fact that it was not shot down, that there were no sirens, that is something that is causing a great deal of concern. We know that there are defense officials that are asking for investigations to be launched because they want to get to the bottom of this. That they're worried about how something like this could happen. Beyond that, though, of course, you have these dozens of rockets that were launched by Hezbollah towards northern Israel today. And as a result, you had at least 14 people injured. In some northern communities, you had at least one person who was killed as a result of shrapnel from one of those rockets that exploded. And that's causing concern too. The fact of the matter is that Israeli officials have been talking about the fact that over the course of the last few weeks, it's become an almost daily occurrence that dozens often of rockets are launched towards strategic cities in the north of Israel. And Haifa, of course, this is not only the third largest city in Israel, it's the largest city in the north, around 300,000 people. It's home to the main Navy base for Israel's Navy. There is a military presence. You have oil refineries. You have industries that support the military. It's a very important city. And more over the course of the past couple of weeks, you've had rockets that have not been intercepted by the much vaunted Israeli Iron Dome defense system, and they are landing in those areas. And that is causing a lot of worry amongst army officials. It's causing a lot of worry amongst especially citizens who are wondering how exactly the country can be vulnerable to this type of attack at such a critical time. Laura?
OK, Mojam Joom bringing us the very latest there from Amman.